The next arc of One Piece hasn't even started yet, but we're already getting some serious hype. This week had us finally resolve a confrontation that has been brewing for over 100 chapters by this point. It even dropped some big revelations about what the Navy has been up to. It gives us a peek at a terrifying new weapon. If this is what the slow-paced in-between arc chapters are like, the next proper arc is going to be full-on insane. Let's get to it. We open chapter 1059 with the red-haired pirates. Now that they're done with their cameo to promote Film Red, they've decided to help give Marco a lift back to Sphinx Island. Shanks is again trying to get the Phoenix to join his crew, but Whitebeard's old commander remains stubborn. Still, Marco takes the idea far better this time. Rather than a curt dismissal, he laughs it off, telling Shanks to stop dreaming. With a grin, he claims that he is far too old to keep playing babysitter for the red-haired pirates. Shanks claims that he is not that much of a handful, asking Ben Beckman to back him up. First mate Beckman completely fails to do so. While we can't see him, it's pretty clear Ben's trying to resist the urge to chuckle. We can see Lucky and Monster laughing hard at this exchange between their captain and his would-be recruit. The whole atmosphere of the red-haired pirates here is happy and friendly. This has clearly been an easy trip. As his ship draws closer to Sphinx, Marco shifts back into his Phoenix form. He looks behind him, leaving Shanks' crew with a cheery "see you around" before he finally heads home. As he goes, the Phoenix flashes back to some events he overheard on Wano. Specifically, Yamato's conversation with the Straw Hats the night before they left the country. As it turns out, the crew were as surprised as the fanbase was by Yamato's decision to stay. They are outright asking for the Oni warrior to join them to become a pirate. However, Yamato explains their thinking on this. As suspected, it is rooted in the Ryokugyu situation. The Admiral was able to just waltz up into Wano and treat some of its most powerful defenders like they were nothing. He was even boasting about being free to kill however many people he wanted. Even when Momo's bowl of breath seemingly killed him, Ryokugyu was able to revive himself like it was nothing. Even for a child of Kaido, an opponent who can walk off death has to be intimidating. Yamato admits that the only reason they won that fight was the burst of haki that scared off the Admiral, which of course came from Shanks. Wano can't rely on that happening again. With Kaido gone, the floodgates really are open for anyone powerful to enter Wano and start causing trouble. Leaving now would be abandoning the people here, and Yamato can't do that. There is a curious detail here though, and that's just how much Yamato is smiling. The Oni warrior is beaming all the way through admitting this. It makes it hard to tell how sincere they're being here. Staying on Wano is absolutely the right decision, but it is forcing Yamato to give up on that dream of traveling the world. It would make sense for the Oni to try and act brave here. Just like Momonosuke didn't want to make Yamato feel guilty about going to sea, Yamato doesn't want to make the Straw Hats feel guilty about leaving them behind. Luffy may have picked up on exactly that. He gives Yamato a pretty skeptical look during this conversation. He is no fan of people abandoning their dreams. Still, he admits that having someone stay behind to keep Wano safe would be a load off his mind. Ultimately, he agrees to this idea. Zoro, in a pretty insightful moment, warns Yamato about Momonosuke's pride. Having another warrior stay to babysit him would run the risk of ruining what little self-confidence the young shoguns managed to piece together. Yamato, however, isn't worried, claiming that they will find another reason to stay. This means that the excuse of traveling Wano was likely Yamato's idea. Figures that their best explanation would come from a very exact look at Kozuki Oden's life. This is when Marco finally interrupts the conversation. He is here to let Luffy know that he has found a ship willing to give him a ride. As such, he'll be heading off now, a day ahead of the Straw Hats. He thinks back to the moment in the Summit War where he ordered Jinbei to get Luffy away from the fighting, while he helped cover their escape. Luffy brings it up at once. He wasn't able to thank Marco back then due to the whole unconscious thing, but is happy to do so now. Marco doesn't take credit for it. Instead, he turns to Jinbei. He asks the first son of the sea a curious question. Everyone was so ready and willing to spring into action at Marineford. A bunch of people Luffy barely knew were willing to fight and die to protect him. Why could that have been? Jinbei laughs at the question. The Summit War was years ago at this point. It's pretty clear that the two know the real answer. For the sake of the new era. Marco gives Luffy a warm look. He tells him that Ace would have absolutely been proud of how far his little brother has come. This gets Luffy beaming and laughing at the thought. It was a nice sentiment from Marco, and it's good to see Luffy more comfortable with Ace's memory like this. With a final wish for the young pirates to stay strong, as this is their era, the Phoenix flies away from Wano. This ends our flashback as we see Marco continuing to approach Sphinx Island. He is doubtlessly happy to be home. Just like how you'll no doubt be happy to have gamer subs in your home after getting 10% off with code Plot Armor. And just like your energy levels on gamer subs, it is here where the chapter takes a drastic shift. We cut to Amazon Lilly, home of the Kuja pirates. It's not looking great, and by that, I mean someone has knocked down a portion of the Snake Mountain. Boa Hancock gives us a basic rundown of what has happened. Men had invaded the island in force. The town is in bad shape. As long as she stays on the island, the Navy won't stop coming here for her. But where else could she go? And naturally, after a moment's thought, she jumps to the predictable conclusion. She should go and marry Luffy. Gloriosa thankfully is here to remind Boa that she always thinks that. Marrying Luffy is not a solution to all life's problems. We go back to a few weeks earlier when the battle was in full swing. The Navy had fully blockaded Amazon Lilly and were full on bombarding the island. We see explosions rocking the forests up and down the coastline. That wasn't enough to stop the Kuja though. Even when the Marines make it through the city gates, the local warriors are resisting in force, firing freely on the Marine invaders. However, Vice Admiral Yamakaji was ready for that. The Marines have apparently brought along a new model of pacifista, the Seraphim. Yamakaji happily orders them to the front, puffing away on his cigar. He tells his men to record what happens next, likely to get testing data for Vegapunk. The Navy spent the last 2 years improving the pacifista design. Why stop now? The Seraphim move quickly. Margaret and Sweet Pea have already run into one, and the battle didn't go in their favor. Margaret states that she can't just fight a kid with intent to kill, while Sweet Pea notes this child's overwhelming power. Before they can continue, the Seraphim simply raises its arm and throws a colossal energy blast their way. We get a good look at the Seraphim design here. Even with some shadows, there's a few things we can make out clearly. They have dark skin, stars in their eyes, and wings on their backs. Even more telltale, however, is the halo of flame seemingly coming from the base of the neck. These are clearly Lunarian traits. Somehow, Vegapunk has been able to recreate them within the pacifista line. If he's able to mass produce the Seraphim, then these things replacing the warlords starts to look pretty plausible. Before the Angel Child can make it further into the island, however, events start to overtake the Navy's attack plan. A shout goes up from one of the Marines. Warship spotted off the stern. The Navy are confused by the new arrival, then a report comes in from the shore. Pirates incoming. Before the Navy can identify exactly what crew is joining the battle, the sea shudders, tossing their ships to either side. The pirates sail straight through the blockade, more than ready for this. One of the Marines cries out, having finally worked out just who has joined the fight. The Blackbeard Pirates. They are now up against a Yonko. And with the Sea Quake he just unleashed to scatter the Marines, they could be up against Sea Kings too at this rate. We see soon enough that Teach has come to this fight himself, along with Vasco Shot and Katarina Devon, both trusted commanders with ships of their own. Teach doesn't bother trying to hide why he's here, calling out across the bay that he is after the Pirate Empress. As someone who collects powerful devil fruits, he's got no intention of letting her ability fall into the Navy's hands. This leads to obvious jokes about Blackbeard, not the most attractive guy, trying to use the Mero Mero no Mi. However, there is a point worth noting here about the fruit's name. Mero Mero is a Japanese onomatopoeia of to fall down drunk, with an implication of being drunk on emotions. Blackbeard may not be able to wield sex appeal as a weapon like Boa Hancock does, but he is very good at getting a reaction out of people. Just look at the despair he brought to everyone at Marineford with just one little bit of brutality. He could be very scary with this fruit, and I'm sure the same could be said for one of his crewmates in a different way. Vasco and Katarina aren't thinking that far ahead, however. Blackbeard's crew tend to move towards simple desires. Devon wants to take Boa's head as a trophy. Apparently, that is a hobby of hers. Vasco Shot is more interested in having some fun with the Kuja Empress while she's still alive. So yeah, a very unpleasant guy who definitely needs to make his way back to Impel Down. Blackbeard doesn't care what his subordinates do, so long as he get the Mero Mero no Mi. So the question is tabled for now. The Marines are panicking. One contacts Vice Admiral Yamakaji over Denden Mushi, asking for his approval to open fire on the Blackbeard pirates. And in a stunning display of incompetence, Yamakaji orders him to hold his fire until they hear from Marine headquarters. Because I mean, it's not like he might die while waiting for that call or anything. Thankfully for Yamakaji, Teach is too focused on his prize to bother with the Navy. Throwing out a Gura Gura powered backhand, he swats their ship away. He's not here to deal with peons. He calls out for Boa Hancock to get out here and face him. Unfortunately for Blackbeard, Boa Hancock is still busy dealing with the Marine invasion. We see their forces already in the Kuja city, with our pink-haired friend Kobe seemingly in charge. Unlike Yamakaji, he is not surprised to see Blackbeard here. He expected other pirates to want a piece of the warlords after they lost their title. Seeing the situation isn't great, Kobe yells over the battlefield. He wants to make a deal with Hancock. If she surrenders, they can leave immediately. This would be a smart move if Kobe could pull it off. Blackbeard isn't interested in Amazon Lilly, so it would end the fighting. They would be in a better position to defend Hancock at Navy headquarters too. Unfortunately, with their past history as slaves of the Celestial Dragons, that was never going to work on the Kuja. Marigold and Sonia are ready to defend their sister from this attack, calling Kobe conceited for thinking he could end this without a fight. But Boa Hancock does not want to stand back. She makes it clear to Kobe that she has no interest in submitting to captivity, stepping up from her throne, and onto the battlefield. Before we see her intervention, we go back to Teach. The Blackbeard pirates have landed on Amazon Lilly and are making their way to the Kuja city. Unfortunately for Blackbeard, they have run into one of the Seraphim. Teach's crew call to him for help, yelling that nothing seems to faze this thing. Rather than intervene, however, Blackbeard takes a second. He notes the combination: white hair, brown skin, and black wings. This suggests Blackbeard is familiar with what Lunarians look like, though he is surprised to see one in person. In the time it takes Blackbeard to make that remark, however, the Seraphim has managed to take down the remains of his advanced party. This comes as a surprise to Teach, who seemingly expected his crew to be able to stand up to an angel with a sword. That's when he notices the PX on the Seraphim's skin, however. The revelation that this kid is a pacifista comes as more of a surprise to Blackbeard than the Lunarian angle. And that shock gives the kid an opening. His sword slash is enough to split the mountain behind them. Even Blackbeard is crying out in pain after a hit like that. Still, one lucky hit does not take down an Emperor of the Sea. Teach still has no idea while child Lunarian pacifistas are attacking him, but he's able to hold it back, blocking with a hefty dose of armament haki. This is the first time we have directly seen Teach use haki in battle, and standing up to a hit like this is beyond impressive. Still, even he is clearly having trouble here. It takes a second, but Teach finally ends the battle with Black Hole, the Yami Yami no Mi pulling nearby buildings into the void and obscuring any sight of the sword-wielding pacifista. Boa Hancock is doing well on her side of the fight too. She's letting slave arrows fly and petrifying the Marines en masse. Kobe survives the attack, but even he is taken aback at how many of his friends are stoned. Helmeppo is down for the count. So is Vice Admiral Yamakaji, though I think that might help the Marines at this point. Kobe orders the pacifista to stand down, not wanting to risk damage to his petrified comrades. Boa Hancock is ready to follow up with her trademark Perfume Femmer, either to Kobe or the Seraphim. But she is interrupted. Blackbeard, Marshal D. Teach, has grabbed the Empress of Kuja by the throat, activating the Yami Yami no Mi to ensure her powers are no longer working. The Kuja look on in horror as their Empress has been rendered helpless. Unfortunately for Blackbeard, that slave arrow attack hit his own crew as well as the Marines. Katarina Devon and Vasco Schott are both clearly seen turned to stone. That puts Blackbeard's fleet down 2 Titanic captains. It is here that we get bounties for the 2 pirate rulers. Boa Hancock is placed at 1.659 billion berries, while Marshal D. Teach has risen to a hefty 3.996 billion. Both impressive sums, though it is clear which the Navy considers more of a threat. Kobe isn't sure what to do. Blackbeard's in a perfect position to kill Boa Hancock. All of his fellow Marines have been turned to stone, save the pacifista. Teach, meanwhile, is gloating. He is surprisingly respectful to Boa Hancock, admitting that she has earned her title. But he has had his eye on her power for a while and intends to take it. This is where Boa Hancock reveals her trump card. Even while blood is trickling down her mouth, she is willing to defy Blackbeard. The petrification effect of the Marimar no Mi was rooted in her beauty. Only she has the power to reverse it. Teach could take the fruit, but if he does, he will have lost a good number of crewmen, and 2 commanders to boot, one of whom has her own mythical Zoan. The 3 are at an impasse. We pan out to get a wider view of the Kuja city, damaged and beaten up. Thankfully for Boa Hancock, the giant Luffy poster has not taken any damage. Teach takes his chance to reminisce a bit with Kobe. Apparently, the Rocky Port incident, where our pink-haired captain won distinction for saving civilians, had a few side effects. It allowed Blackbeard to oust Ochoku, the former ruler of Pirate Island, taking it for his own. Ochoku, also known as Wang Ji, was once a member of the Rocks Pirates. Kobe has inadvertently helped Blackbeard take down a legend and solidify his power. It is no surprise Teach remembers him. Perhaps out of respect, or at least as much as Blackbeard can give, he takes a friendly tone. He asks Kobe if he thinks Hancock will reverse the petrification should he let her go. Kobe, not trusting his ability to lie, gives a diplomatic answer. Having to report the death of his entire force would be a headache. As such, he is sure hoping she will let them go. Hancock interjects with an offer. She will reverse the petrification if both Blackbeard and Kobe leave Amazon Lilly. Unfortunately, Teach does not buy it for a second. Blackbeard has betrayed both the Whitebeard pirates and the world government. He can see a double cross coming. He tightens his grip on Hancock's throat. He is certain that if he lets her go, she will just petrify Kobe and Teach immediately. Blackbeard isn't willing to bet that anyone's just immune to her powers. He's not sure what the best way out of this is, but the only solution that keeps him safe is killing Boa Hancock. So that's what he's going with. He can always get more crew later, right? Kobe objects, pleading with Teach not to throw so many lives away. This is a kind of foolish plea, given Kobe once witnessed Teach promise to sink Marineford into the sea and kill everyone on the island. But sure, he is panicking and trying his best, so we can't really fault Kobe's intent here. But before we waste any more breath, a new figure enters the Kuja city. The mysterious swordsman steps around the petrified pirates, joining the three warriors in their stalemate. He apologized to Hancock for his late arrival. He knew the Navy would be besieging Amazon Lilly, but he hadn't expected things to get this bad. As he draws closer, the fighters recognize him. Silvers Rayleigh, the Dark King, former first mate of Goldie Roger, king of the pirates. Kobe's eyes pop out of their sockets at the sight of this living legend. Even Teach is taken aback, looking afraid to run into the old swordsman. Only Boa Hancock is relieved to see her friend. Rayleigh is already drawing his sword as he steps towards the scene, his glare intense. He looks more than ready for a fight as he addresses Blackbeard. While the Dark King feels it is immature to admit it, he makes it clear that he just does not like Blackbeard one bit. All the same, he is here to try and end the fight, not take someone's head. Rayleigh promises that once she does so, the invaders will all leave Amazon Lilly. He won't allow any part of the fighting to continue. Given his reputation and anger, it is likely he can back up his words if he has to. He is in the same position Shanks was back at Marineford. And that was the end of the Battle of Amazon Lilly. We go forward a few weeks back to the present time. Rayleigh is relieved that Hancock survived that encounter. She credits it all to him, slumping against the old man's knee. It is clear Boa Hancock is still not feeling great about this close call. We see Shaki has come with her husband to Amazon Lilly, and learned via caption that she was once a Kuja pirate captain herself. While we knew she was a former pirate, Shaki's tie to the Kuja is news to us. She muses about how dangerous things have gotten thanks to modern technology. The Navy's sea stone paddle bolts make the calm belt far less safe. Amazon Lilly's traditional defense is almost useless now. Gloriosa admits that between the Navy's new pacifistas and Blackbeard, she was convinced that they were straight up done for. Rayleigh adds another sour note to the conversation. He admits something no one wants to hear. They got lucky this time. He won this fight with his reputation, scaring Teach away from a fight with a legendary swordsman. Blackbeard couldn't have been sure he'd win a confrontation with someone who stood beside the Pirate King. But while Rayleigh is still good, he's gotten old. And Blackbeard was able to go head to head with a fleet admiral even before the time skip. The one-time Dark King doubts he could beat Teach in a head-on fight right now. Everyone looks grim, but there is no more to be said about Blackbeard and no sense dwelling on his threat. The topic turns instead to the Seraphim. Rayleigh speculates that the Navy are looking to use these new pacifistas as replacements for the warlords. Sandersonia and Marigold claim that even after everything that had happened, the two Seraphim didn't even have a scratch on them. What's more, one of them apparently looked just like Boa Hancock, right down to her having snake earrings. Given the sword carried by the Seraphim Blackbeard fought, it could have potentially resembled a young Dracula Mihawk. When Fujitora talked about this new project that could replace the warlords, he meant it surprisingly literally. Perhaps the Navy wanted a new, more marketable set of cute baby warlords. Think of the merchandising possibilities. Speaking of the Marines, something mysterious has happened. We cut to one of these ships from Amazon Lilly, now making its way towards Egghead Port. This is not somewhere we have visited in One Piece before. It's likely that this is where the SSG have been working from. They are probably taking the pacifistas back to Vegapunk for a checkup. Talking over Denden Mushi, one of the Marines reveals a startling twist. Somehow, in the fallout of these events, Kobe has been kidnapped by Blackbeard. How that happened is not explained. It's unlikely Rayleigh would have simply let something like that happen. More likely, Blackbeard simply waited until he had left the middle of the island, picking his moment for ambush and capture. Or, for whatever reason, perhaps for the benefit of his comrades, Kobe volunteered himself to be taken captive. Regardless, news of this brave Marine's capture has begun to spread around the world. It's likely to reach the Straw Hat crew before too long. Luffy and Kobe are walking separate paths, but could Blackbeard be trying to provoke the Straw Hat captain into challenging him? Or is Kobe a bargaining chip of a different sort? And it is with these questions that we close out chapter 1059. A lot happened this week, and we are still no closer to knowing where the Straw Hat crew is headed next. But please let us know what you think about this chapter. And if you have any guesses as to who we will be checking in on next week, let us know in the comments down below. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.